Hi guys, it's Steph from IDRIVEACLASSIC. Now today you don't get my usual smiley face on the screen because the day of this show it was insanely hot, and by the time that I'd come to record the intro section I was the colour of this car pretty much. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to dub over some footage of some cars and chat to you a little bit about this show, what's going on today, and tell you a little bit about the video. So in this video today I'm going to show you some of my favourite cars from Ripon. It's quite a short video. I don't have millions and millions of cars in it, and the reason for that is because it was probably one of my favourite shows of the year. Not because it was massive, not because it was showy, but because I met so many of you guys and I saw so many old friends that by the time it came to filming I thought, you know what, I'm just going to focus on my very favourite cars at the show and show some of you guys something different too. So there's a few different bits of the video, there's a few fan favourites, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. As you may or may not know, Morris Minors are massively my thing, and in fact it was the first classic car I ever drove and ever owned. And so when I saw this, I'd never seen this before, I had to show you guys. So it's pretty much a converted Traveller, which I found absolutely bonkers, to be honest. But if you see, look, they've put some extra wheels in there, so there's a bit of extra support, and essentially the guy has built this himself. So I'm going to take you inside actually and show you what it looks like, because honestly it's really clever. And if you think there's not that much space, I think it's quite well put together actually. Now if you're into this sort of thing, there's an account on Instagram called Round the UK on a tenner a day, and they've done something really similar with their Traveller, and they've converted it into a little mobile home actually that all their family are living in. Now I managed to get the owner to agree to be on camera actually, so he's going to have a little chat with us and he's going to show us around the inside. But I mean, look at this, you'll either love it or you hate it. I think it's absolutely brilliant, and I love the fact that the guy's made it himself as well. I just think it's quite fun, it's quite original, and even though it's a Morris Minor and you always see them, I just had to show you guys this. So let's catch the owner.
Right. Hi, my name's Ian Bevitt, and this is me Morris Caravette stroke caravan. It was built 1968, and I've remodelled it now 2019. As you can see, it's double bed, single bed, table, chairs, cooker, sink, and a whole bathroom and fitted cupboards. It took us 6 months to build out of recycled material, so it's about 100% recycled vehicle. So I love it, that's all it is. Thank you.
Now this is a Mark II Jag, and they were made between 1959 and 1967, and they were made in Coventry. Now the advertising slogan on these was genius, and they just went out with the 3-word belter, which was grace, space and pace, and it's easy to remember, and it's a car that in my opinion is quite iconic. And speaking of iconic, let's skip over to this amazing Mini from 1969. So if you've seen a lot of Minis at shows this year, more than usual, it's probably because it is 60 years in the Mini this year, so there's a lot going on at various shows over the summer. And if you're wondering where this sits in Mini history, this is a Mark II. So they made Mark II between 1967 and 1970, and there were nearly 500,000 made across those 3 years, which when you think about it and you think about how much, you know, how much of a bind it was to own a car and what a privilege it was, that's an awful lot of Minis sold. And that'll be because, you know, it was a cheap car, it was nice to drive, and you know you could get the whole family in as well. So it's nice to see one at a show. I mean, to be fair, to say it's 60 years in the Mini and say how prevalent they are, there's only actually been a few here. So I'm just going to skip past this Jag, because you know what it's like on IDRIVEACLASSIC. It's just time to feature the cars that people have forgotten, and that skims me over nicely to this Vauxhall Victor. This particular model was made between 72 and 76, and it was the last model, which seemed a lot bigger than its predecessors, but it was actually no wider and only 2 inches longer. However, because of an internal rejig, it did mean that you got more legroom in the front, 1.5 inches to be precise, and 4 inches extra legroom in the back, which was a marked improvement. And there wasn't actually a real loss in space at the boot of the car, and they did this by swapping out side panels, windows, and upgrading the front bench seat to front bucket seats. So I'm going to swing round so you can see what a jolly, well, it feels enormous actually, compared to a modern SUV. I'm sure that it's perfectly small, but as you can see, I'm just going to come in and show you the interior before we say goodbye. It is such an exceptional car. I love these Victors. Now I spotted this absolutely insanely gorgeous 70s Polo from across the field and had to show you guys because look at the colour of it, it's amazing. And possibly one of the most amazing things about it is it hasn't been bodged or modified, and it's pretty much as it rolled out the factory. Now as you can see from the interior, it's pretty mint as well, which is quite hard when you consider that interior is made of corduroy. Now let me tell you a little bit about the Mark I Polo because it's not a car that you see at every single show. And I think it deserved a little bit of time in the spotlight. So your Mark I Polo was kind of your early VW Super Mini break into that market, and they were produced from 1975 until 1981. And what I didn't know until I did a bit of digging was that they were a rebadged version of the Audi 50, but because this Polo was a lot more accessible and a lot more affordable, they were a lot more successful. So the Mark I Polo came into the UK in 1976, and the Audi 50 was withdrawn. It didn't sell very well in 1978, and then the Mark I Polo got a bit of a facelift in 1979 and ran through to 1981, and they were updated with things like plastic bumpers, different front grills, and were also known as the Volkswagen Derby. Now, there are plenty of people that would look at this and say, oh, it's a Reliant Robin. No, this is a Reliant Regal. And to me, I actually prefer these. I think they're really stylish. I think they're quite cool. So let me tell you where they fit in the kind of the Reliant history. So the predecessor to these was the Reliant Regent, and then came along the Reliant Regal. And the Reliant Regal was made from 1953 to 1973. And after that, it was the Reliant Robin. Now, if you've seen one of these before and they look kind of familiar, then you're probably an Only Fools and Horses fan, because this is actually what Del Boy and Rodney had. A lot of people always think it is a Robin that they had, but they had a yellow Reliant Regal van in bright yellow. And in fact, if you are an Only Fools and Horses fan, you can actually go and see the one of the series, because it's in the National Motor Museum in Bewley. So yeah, that's exciting. Let's have a look at some of the other cars. Now, I have a small confession to make. The Vauxhall Chevette, or as you may know it, the Opel Chevette, or even, if we're getting a bit exotic, the Bedford Chevan. These are one of my favourite cars, and I'm so excited to show you today, because you may not have seen it if you live abroad, because they were pretty much a UK car. They were assembled in Bedfordshire in the UK, and also Cheshire, and bizarrely in Ecuador as well. So these were made by Vauxhall, and it was pretty much their attempt at a super mini / compact car, and in my opinion, it's one of the most attractive cars of the mid to late 70s and early 80s, but there aren't too many left, and that's mainly because they've been chewed up by things like rust, lost through things like the scrappage scheme, and people just haven't valued them. So yes, probably my favourite car of the show today. I absolutely love it. Now, one of the things that I really like about Ripon Show is that they don't just feature cars, they feature commercial vehicles too, so there's a lot going on here. So I'm having a quick whistle-stop tour around, just because there's quite a lot to see, and I'd rather show you a few more of the cars, but I couldn't leave these vehicles out, because there's an awful lot going on here, there's an awful lot to see. And as I've covered off in other videos previously, one of the things that I really love about coming to car shows and seeing cars or commercial vehicles and commercial cars is that these are always the first things to go, because they've been heavily used. When they've got to the end of their lifespan, they're just got rid of, they're just scrapped or broken down for parts. So it almost feels quite special when you see vehicles like this out in the wild and out at shows, because as well, there's some really rare stuff here. So as you've probably spotted, there's things like Nissans, there's things like this as well. I've not seen these before. Anyway, I'm digressing, and I'm rattling on to you, but anyway, there is a lot of interesting special stuff here, and I thought, because I haven't got time to go around absolutely all of it, because I probably could have made 2 videos, but in all honesty, I was having a great time enjoying myself and seeing all my friends. So it was, I thought I'd just have a quick spin round. I absolutely love this Dormobile. In fact, it was probably my favourite of the commercial vehicles. It was just, honestly, the quality of all these vehicles was absolutely insane. They were all all in such good condition, and considering the lifespan, considering what they've been doing, I think it's incredible really. So I'm just going to ping around, show you a few other bits. There's a few custom bits and pieces as well here, you know, that rat roddy sort of look, which isn't my favourite, but it's still nice to see and looks quite fitting really on American cars, down to your more normal stuff that you would have seen on a regular basis, things like this Bedford van. It's just, for me, it's a really good mix of vehicles. Again, you've got things like your Land Rovers and your Range Rovers. So yes, big thumbs up from me, because it's been quite cheap to get in today, and the quality and the diversity of vehicles has been, in my opinion, brilliant. Now, it couldn't be an iDrive a Classic video unless there was a bit of gratuitous British Leyland, and I saw this amazing Austin Montego and I had to include it because look at it, it looks brand new, and to me it was just shining across the field. I thought it was absolutely incredible. And if you've never seen one before, the Montego was originally badged the Austin Montego from 1984 through to 1988, and then it was badged just as the Montego and sold under Rover from 1988 all the way through to 1995. And it was introduced to replace the Ital and the Ambassador, because they were kind of rejigging everything. And if you've got one of these gorgeous cars, don't forget to join the Montego and Maestro Owners Club. Now, I had to show you guys this. So if it's not immediately obvious what it is, it's a Nissan S-Cargo. Now, they didn't release them in this country. And they were only sold at Nissan Cherry stores in Japan, and they're only made for a few years as well. It's one of those weird cars, a bit like the Figaro, that have been massively popular over here, things like the Polo as well. And this one's been slightly modified, so it's got I think it's got a turbo engine, as you can see, but I think the engine came out of a Nissan Cherry actually. Now, as you have a look round, you'll see that the guy's using it on a daily basis. So he runs a cleaning company, and this is his car. Now, as you come round, you'll see that he's done all the back out, and I really love stuff like this because it's using a classic car on the daily, and that is actually quite difficult when it's a car that's not been made in this country. And to say that these were only made from 1989 to 1991, I think it looks quite modern actually. There's quite a few bits going on. Now, because they're imported in, there's not many at all in the UK, so getting parts and stuff like this is quite difficult. So hats off to the owner, because it's a smashing vehicle and a brilliant daily. Now, this is a 1987 Nissan Sunny ZX RZ1 Kupe, and I found out quite a bit about it online actually, this particular car. So it's a 16 valve injection engine. It's got a 5-speed gearbox on it. The mileage is quite low actually. You can see there just a quick sneak peek, but it's sitting on 50-something thousand. It's just a fantastic example, and you'll notice that the paintwork is absolutely incredible, and it hasn't actually been repainted. The interior are all the original seats and door cards, which have been retrimmed, which sometimes I like, sometimes I don't, and I think it's been done quite well on this car. So they were retrimmed in 2002, and the carpets have never been exposed. It's been rubber mats from new, which is incredible really. Whilst the Alicus Agonis is often known for the Mini and the Morris Minor, he didn't just stop there. He was a man of absolute genius, and he was also pivotal in the design and creation of the Austin Morris 1800, or as you may know it, the BMC ADO 17, because this is one of those weird cars that is badged as all sorts of different things. It was known as the Morris 1800, the Wolseley 1885. Basically, they just fell under all sorts of things, so they all fall under the name of the landcrab, and allegedly it was Sir Alicus Agonis's favourite design, and the 1800 was actually voted Europe's Car of the Year in 1965, and by and large, they're a really exciting club as well. If you've got one, I'd recommend you join them. They seem to do things like remanufacture parts, they go on all sorts of adventures, and fingers crossed we're going to try and get a date in to test drive this car, because little did I know until I came to the show, it doesn't actually live too far from me, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, this is an absolutely stunning example, and I'd love to have it on the channel. This for me was probably one of the most special cars that was here, and from what I can work out, because the owner wasn't around sadly, this is a Ford Deluxe station wagon Woodie, and I did a bit of digging online because there's not lots and lots of information on these, and one of the reasons is because, as you'll be able to see as we look around and you see all the wood on the car, they were quite labour intensive, and they were one of the most expensive Fords that you could get at the time, so they weren't the most popular. However, some people did still pick them, so I've got a little bit of information that I can tell you about the cars, so hopefully if you know a little bit more you can fill me in on the comment section. So when they were making them, they used a variety of different woods, so this is a 1940s model, which I find absolutely bizarre because look at it, it looks so much more advanced. So in the 40s they changed over the internal classification from commercial vehicles to passenger cars, and the wood intensive bodies had been built by the Murray Corporation of America, but then were assembled in-house by Ford, I guess to try and keep some of the costs down, and there was a lot of wood involved. And for those of you who like a little bit of information like this, they used a variety of different woods, so they had maple or birch, mahogany and basswood for the roof slats, and because they were hand built, it just meant that the cost was so high, and it's why I think they made less than 10,000 of these cars, which means that it's really exciting actually that we've come all the way to Ripon today and this amazing American built car is on this field just sat by itself. Now I must confess that this video is a little bit shorter than I would have liked it to be, and that's mainly for a few reasons. Number one being I met so many fantastic people on the day and we had such a good laugh chatting that I didn't get as much footage as I would have liked, but I tried to get footage of every car that caught my eye and that I thought that you guys would like as well. So I think for me probably my favourite car of the show was the Chevette, and then I really liked that Regal as well. I thought that was fantastic, and the Ford station wagon as well. Another car that I've not seen before, but was so nice to see out on this field, and for such a cheap entry price as well. It's been a really good show. Anyway, I'm blathering on, and you've got things to do. I'm going to crack on because I'm off to do a Marina car review today. So it leaves me to say goodbye to you guys. If you haven't already signed up, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all as I Drive a Classic, and on there I tend to document what I'm doing week to week, day to day, so you can get to see some of the stuff behind the scenes as well. So it'd be great to connect on there with you and find out what you guys are doing too. Anyway, until next time, take care and drive safely.